think we've probably all experienced in our life when you've been part of a team that is just phenomenal and it's delivering at every level. Everyone's working together, all pulling in the same direction, and it's just phenomenal what you can achieve as a group of people. On the same side, I think we probably all worked in a team which doesn't feel like that, where people are pulling apart from each other and it's all difficult and troublesome and it just feels really hard and you don't achieve the results. I've worked in both types of teams and I've led teams over my whole career, and I've had great success running really highly effective teams. So I was trying to work out what I could share with you from my experience as to what makes a successful team. And this framework which I've got, which breaks it down into 5 key elements, was taken from the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And I adapted it into a framework which I've used with teams over the last few years. And it's really helped to form a cohesive and highly effective team. And I wanted to share this framework with you today. So there are 5 contributing elements which make a highly effective team. I've called this the team blueprint. If you can get this right, then you can have an awesome team that delivers time after time after time. The analogy that I use is like having a rowing boat where you've got multiple people in the rowing boat. These 5 different elements to a team, if you've got a fast boat, everyone is rowing beautifully in time, they're all contributing, they're working well together, they're communicating well together, and the boat is fast and direct and all going in the same direction. That's what it feels like to be in a great team. On the other hand, a poor team, you've got people sitting in the boat, maybe not putting in the same amount of effort, maybe they've even stopped rowing altogether, maybe they're even rowing in the other direction, so they've turned around and they're rowing the boat in a completely different direction. That's not going to be a fast boat. That's the way I think about teams and team structures. So what are the 5 elements that contribute to a fantastic team? The first one, and there's a reason why I put it right at the top there, is trust. Now, it's a difficult thing to get right, but when you do get it right, then it is the foundation stone of everything that a high-performing team has. If you have a lack of trust within a team, then quickly things are going to disintegrate. It's very, very difficult to build up trust. I always say to my children when they were growing up that it takes a long time to build up trust, but it's very quickly eroded. So it's almost like it's, step by step by step by step to build trust, but there's only one incident needed and it can erode that trust and drop off a cliff very, very quickly. But you've got to start building that trust. And one of the things that I found really helped with a team that I've built recently is almost to put a mantra around our trust statement. How do we build trust within a team? And the phrase that I came up with that we use now almost as a kind of team ethic, team value. And that phrase is, assume your peers' intentions are good. Now this is a simple phrase, but it's highly effective because what it does is mean that it builds trust. Because when you get that email from your colleague or your team member and you think they are getting at you or they think they're undermining you or treading on your toes, bringing that phrase to mind, assume your peers' intentions are good, just calms that situation down and helps to build trust, because you don't assume, that they're trying to step on your toes or undermine you or being stupid. They are genuinely trying to help. It's just a different perspective of the situation. And that statement really helped to build trust. And so, but you may have a statement that is more appropriate to you, but it definitely helps to build trust within a team. And that idea of having different opinions in a team moves on to the second one. And that is constructive conflict. Now, you may think the word conflict is not a good word to use when it comes to teams. But you know, actually, a really highly effective and high-performing team is one where the sum of the parts of the team are actually greater than the sum of the individuals. So when they come together, it's almost like the old phrase, the cliche, 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 11. And this is very true of teams though, but what I've found is that really high performing teams, there is conflict actually. There's different views, there's different opinions, but they are constructively discussed and they're constructively debated within the team, and people are respectful that other people have a different view, and it can be debated and it can be constructively debated such there may be conflict, but it's constructive, it's moving the team forward. And that's been essential to high performing teams that I've built. The third thing that high performing teams have is high levels of commitment. Now, there are many ways to obviously get commitment from team members, but you know, if you don't have high levels of commitment, going back to the rowing boat analogy, if somebody is not committed as much as the other team members, they're not going to be putting in the effort on the oars, and they'll get out of time with the others, and that's going to slow the boat down. Really high performing teams have very high levels of commitment. And I won't go into that in more detail in this video, but I've developed techniques over the years to raise people's commitment levels within a team. And there are many ways of doing that, but you need to have high levels of commitment to a goal, a vision, and I'll talk about that more in other videos. But that high levels of commitment are essential to contributing to high performing teams. The next thing you must have in a high performing team is accountability. Accountability. So what does accountability mean? As a team, you need to be accountable not only to your boss or your manager, but you need to be accountable to each other. And that's really important. So you need to hold yourself accountable. So if you say you're going to do something by a certain date, you feel a responsibility to yourself to meet that deadline and complete that task to a high level of quality. But you're also accountable to your other team members. So you hold yourself accountable, but you hold others in the team accountable too. So if they commit to do an action by a certain date, it's not just up to the leader of the team to do that, to hold that person accountable. I encourage everyone in my teams to hold each other accountable. You know, if you're having a meeting and somebody's not delivered on a deadline, it shouldn't just be down to me as the leader of that team to say, well, you know, why hasn't that been done? Or when are you going to do that by? Well, it's not the right level of quality. The team need to hold each other accountable to high levels of standard and high levels of commitment to the task in hand or the objective. So accountability is really key. So far we've got trust, constructive conflict in the team, high levels of commitment, and accountability. But these 4 things together don't all gel together if we don't have the 5th thing here. And the 5th thing is results, focus. Highly performing teams are very results focused. And by results, I mean the outcome, right? And part of being a good leader is making sure that everyone is very, very clear on what the results are that are expected, the goals, the objectives, right? These might be in the form of some objectives. So for example, in my business, there are some very high level objectives that we need to achieve in order to meet the company's objectives. So that might be annual recurring revenue target, a certain profitability level, a certain customer retention or customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction scores. So those are the results, and they need to be very clear so that everybody on your team knows what is expected of them in terms of the outcome. And a high performing team will be hyper focused on those results and those results only. If somebody is misaligned and chasing a different result from the result that the rest of the team are, then there's going to be dysfunction in the team and it's not going to be high performing. So taking the rowing boat analogy again, if the result is to win the race, in a certain time, and somebody isn't focused on that result, maybe they're focused on style maybe, rather than the actual, the time that we've got. So they want to look really beautiful as they're rowing. They're not focused on the same results as everybody else. So there's going to be a different outcome. They're not going to be aligned. So these 5 things combined together are super important in high performing teams. Now, how do you utilize this framework? Well, the way that I've implemented this is I've set this as our team constitution, right? So it's almost like, a set of principles that we live by as a team. So much so that every quarter that we get together, we talk about these 5 areas, and I actually ask my team members to score ourselves as a team. How are we doing on these 5 different things? Have we got high levels of trust? Have we got constructive conflict, or is it destructive? Are there high levels of commitment? Are we accountable to ourselves and to each others? Are we focused on the right results and driving towards those results? Every quarter, when we come together on our quarterly teams, or you might be doing QBRs or whatever, I ask right at the beginning of the meeting, I ask all of my team members to score us on each of these things. And I ask for a score, simple score out of 5. So how are we doing on trust? If there's poor trust in the group, then they would score a 0. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So 1 being very low levels of trust. People are not, they don't trust each other. 5 being absolutely, I would trust this individual absolutely and completely. They've got my back. We're working together, high levels of trust, and so on for these. All scored 1 to 5. And people do that anonymously. So they send those to me. So if people are feeling like there isn't constructive conflict, then they, because the score is anonymous, they don't feel embarrassed to say that in front of their other team members. They can score it, as a 1, and then we can discuss as a group what the score is. So everybody in the team scores the 5 areas from 1 to 5, okay? And then what I do is I put those in a little spreadsheet and I average them. And then what we get is like a spider diagram of where the team is against our blueprint, our constitution. So for example, if trust averages as a 4, then it's 4. Let's say constructive conflict is a 2 average, and then we've got 5 for commitment levels. We've got maybe a 3 for accountability. Then maybe we've got a 3 for results focus, and that heads back to 4. So you get this kind of spider diagram. Excel does this chart for you very easily. It's a particular type of chart, but you score the 4 areas. Now what I've done is kept a record of each time we've done this, and every time we then come together as a team, we re-score and we can see whether we've made progress in a certain area. So maybe this one we have really dropped off in the last, since the last meeting. Maybe that was a 4 or a 5 last time. So I raise that as a team and I say, look, something's gone on with constructive conflict. Last time we came together it was a 4 and now it's a 2. Let's discuss what's happened, and then that generates a discussion, generates a debate. It's not me as the leader, forcing my opinion. This is the opinion of the team, what's gone on. And I found it really helps to unearth some of the underlying sort of the unvoiced opinions of the team and gets them out in the open. People feel more, more open about actually talking about these things when they see, maybe the rest of the team also feel that constructive conflict has dipped off since the last time. Maybe there's been a couple of incidents where there's been destructive conflict or arguments or, what's happened there. And let's get those out into the open, discuss them. And then what are we going to do to, work to make that better over the next period of time so that when we get together next time, that score increases. So this has worked really well because this isn't me as the leader enforcing this on the team. This is an agreed constitution, an agreed framework that we do. We talk about the constitution, we talk about assuming your peers' intentions are good, and how that helps to build trust. We, as a group, we come together and talk about this, we measure this so we can see progress. And I will say that when I first implemented this, our scores were pretty low. Certainly in certain areas like trust was very low in the group. And as time has gone on and we've worked on these areas and we've discussed them as a group and where we're doing well and where we're not doing so well, this trust has gradually, incrementally increased. And I've got a team now which is, pretty much all 4s and 5s across the board. So, and then when we get to the high scores, how do we get to a 5? How do we become, not just a high performing team, but a super performing team? So this method is very simple to implement with your teams. I really hope it helps you think about your teams. I encourage you, if you're a team leader, to put something similar in place to this with your teams, and hopefully it will help you move from underperforming teams to high performing teams, because it certainly helped me and I wanted to share this with you. My objective is to help you unlock your full potential. This has certainly helped me unlock my full potential as a leader of my business and my team. So I hope it helps you too.